There's a knock at your apartment door. It's a Tuesday. You've just come home from the textile factory where you've worked for the past 6 years. The man standing in the hallway smiles, shows you a credential you barely have time to read, and asks if he can come inside. He doesn't wait for your answer. He already knows the layout of your apartment. He knows you were passed over for a promotion last month. He knows your cousin in Hamburg sent you a letter 3 weeks ago, and he knows what it said. He sits down at your kitchen table, folds his hands, and tells you the state needs your help. He calls it a civic honor. He says your country trusts you. And then, without ever raising his voice, he makes it perfectly clear what will happen if you say no. This is where your life inside the Stasi begins. Not with a uniform, not with an oath, with a quiet conversation in your own kitchen that splits your existence in two. You are now an inoffizieller Mitarbeiter, an unofficial collaborator, one of roughly 173,000 embedded across 16 million people. You have no badge, no rank, no title anyone can see. Your handler assigns you a cover name. You're told to observe. Your neighbor who listens to Western radio. The colleague who made a joke about the general secretary. The friend whose brother tried to leave. You report what they say, who they meet, what mood they're in. You write it all down in longhand on a kitchen table that now feels different than it did a week ago. You tell yourself it's nothing. Everyone cooperates. You're not hurting anyone. But slowly, the people around you begin to feel less like people and more like subjects. You start listening differently. Watching differently. A silence grows between you and the world that no one can see but you. This is the lowest rung. And already, something inside you has shifted. Now you're recruited formally. You've completed your compulsory military service, your political officers have endorsed your loyalty, and the local said branch has vouched for your character. You're accepted into the Hochschule in Potsdam, the Stasi's own college, hidden behind the language of law and public administration. For 2 years, you study interrogation psychology, surveillance methodology, counterintelligence theory. You sit in lectures where professors teach you how to disassemble a person's confidence without leaving a mark. You graduate not as a soldier and not as a policeman, but as something in between, something the state never officially names. You're assigned to a district office, a Bezirksverwaltung. Your rank is lieutenant. You wear a uniform only inside the building. Outside, you are invisible. That's the point. Your job now is to manage informants, 10, 15, sometimes 20 of them. You meet them in safe houses. You read their reports. You learn the rhythms of strangers' lives through second-hand sentences. You decide what matters and what doesn't. You pass your assessments upward. And the thing that no one told you at Potsdam is how ordinary it feels. How quickly the extraordinary becomes routine. How easily you stop thinking about what any of this means. But there are promotions. And with promotion comes access. As an Oberleutnant, then a Hauptmann, you move closer to the operational core. You're now involved in operative Vorgänge, active operations against specific individuals flagged as hostile negative elements. Writers, pastors, musicians, people whose only crime is thinking in the wrong direction. Your department is Hauptabteilung XX, and your task is not to arrest these people. Arrest is crude, visible. International observers are watching. Instead, you are told to implement Zersetzung, decomposition. You learn the word the way a chemist learns the word reaction, clinically, precisely, without emotion. You study the target's psychology. You map their relationships. Then you begin to take them apart. You arrange for their promotion to be revoked. You have an informant spread a rumor about their marriage. You enter their apartment while they are at work and move objects. A clock, a drawer, a pair of shoes, just enough to make them wonder if they're losing their mind. You send anonymous letters. You reroute their mail. You engineer social isolation so slowly that even the target doesn't understand why everyone has suddenly pulled away. There is no trial, no cell, no visible violence. Just a life that quietly falls apart, and a person who can never prove why. You tell yourself this is defense of the state. You tell yourself the enemies are real, but at night, in your own apartment, in a country where someone like you might also be watching you, you feel the architecture of the system pressing inward. The Stasi doesn't just surveil citizens, it surveils itself. Internal security divisions monitor officers. Your phone may be tapped. Your loyalty is never assumed, it is perpetually tested. Every colleague is a potential report. Every friendship is conditional. As you rise further, Major, then Oberstleutnant, the pressure doesn't ease. It concentrates. You now oversee entire district operations. You sign off on Zersetzung plans. You attend briefings at Normanenstre, the vast compound in Berlin-Lichtenberg where Erich Mielke has ruled for 3 decades. Mielke, the minister, the man who calls his officers Chekists, who once said "I love all people" to a jeering parliament in the final days. In his presence, you understand that the machine does not run on ideology. It runs on fear. His fear. Fear that the party might lose control. Fear that the wall is not enough. Fear that the people, if left unwatched for a single moment, might remember what freedom felt like. At the highest levels, General Major, General Lieutenant, you are no longer a person who works for the state. You are the state's nervous system. You attend Politburo briefings. You know things about party leaders that could end careers or worse. You oversee the FA, the foreign intelligence arm that Markus Wolf built into one of the most effective espionage services of the Cold War. The unit that planted Ginter Guillaume inside the office of West German Chancellor Willy Brandt and brought down his government. You manage relationships with the KGB. You train secret police forces in Cuba, Ethiopia, Mozambique. You are powerful in a way that no one outside a small circle will ever know. And you are alone in a way that mirrors the loneliness of the people you've spent your career destroying. Then, in the autumn of 1989, the wall opens, and everything inverts. Citizens storm the compound at Normanenstre. They find the files, 111 kilometers of documents, stacked shelf after shelf, recording the private lives of millions. They find the smell jars, sealed glass containers holding cloth samples taken from dissidents' chairs so that dogs could track their scent. They find the records of who informed on whom. Husbands on wives, teachers on students, children on parents. And somewhere in that flood of paper and revelation, your name appears, not as a victim, as the system itself. The Stasi employed 1 secret policeman for every 166 citizens. When informants are included, the ratio drops to 1 for every 6.5 people. Nazi hunter Simon Wiesenthal called it more oppressive than the Gestapo. And the most unsettling thing about the entire apparatus was not its size or its cruelty. It was how human it was. How it ran not on monsters but on ordinary people who said yes in a kitchen one evening and spent the rest of their lives managing the consequences. That is what every rank in the Stasi shared. Not power, not conviction. A quiet, corrosive compromise that grew heavier with every step upward, and never, not at any level, offered a clean way out.